come. The institution is above any individual. The dharma of the individual must be upheld. The second element of sustained career success is that are you so good, visible, a good combination of character and competence that many organizations will be competing to attract you. So there is not only competition at the entry level of young officers and executives, but also at mid-career levels at various points. Companies are at about 10% of their talent they may want to induct at the level of a general manager or something like a joint secretary, specialized fields, and then they will groom you for top management. And wherever you work, although you may at some point be tempted to leave, the employer will really want to retain you rather than feel that it is good riddance. He was too expensive, not that good, and not reliable, and dangerous for the organization. Then the outstanding top people in industry and government have often shared with us in our research work that what they have enjoyed most is not the money or the position alone, but the number of people who are grateful to them, look up to them as their mentors, as their role models and examples. So how many juniors have you inspired? A highly powerful, rich executive will frighten people, may impress people, but will not inspire them. So how many have you inspired? And finally, you may have left, you may have even died, but have those organizations' images been enhanced by your presence? Today, there are still organizations which talk about, starting from an ICS Chief Secretary, Home Secretary, a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, right down to the chairman of a company or an entrepreneur, where there has been dharma, the name is remembered, and many others who have made money by adharma have been forgotten. So these are, we can add to this list, but I thought that a list of 3 to 5 is quite adequate for us to focus on what is sustained career success. And it is a ladder. It's a ladder full of temptations. That's what life is. Snakes and ladder game is a very good example, and one can fall at any time in this ladder. Some of you who read management literature may be aware that a non-Indian company, General Electric, without using the word dharma, have practiced this for the last 10, 20 years in their performance appraisal and promotion system, that as an executive rises in his seniority, level of responsibility with people, resources, assets of the organization, out of 100 points, the weightage given to character rises more and more as he goes up. At the bottom level, it may be 80 competence, 20 character. And at the senior management level, it is the other way around, because they feel it is extremely dangerous to hand over responsibility for people, resources, customers to a person without character. Now, what are the errors which erode such success, which is available to us, which is in front of us, but we fail to reach? Haste for rapid promotions at any cost. In the next slide, we will come to the underlying behavioral tendencies, gunas, which lead us to such errors. But haste is one. So you see a shortcut, like some contract, bypassing a more competent person, breaking some rules, fudging some performance data, pulling some wires, pulling some outside influence into the organization. So this builds up hostility, builds up other forces. This is bad karma, and the fall for that bad karma will come sooner or later. We know about the Shad Ripu, the 6 enemies. And I think of those 6, 3 are most dangerous, which is useful to remember. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, greed. In the context of a career, greed is another reason why there is a career success failure. To earn more and more by any means, the regular income as well as the extra unaccounted income through wrong means. Even earning more and more by hard work, if it is a neglect of family, community and health, is really not part of sustained success. This success of an officer or an executive can come for his own glory, for his ego, but many people working under him, with him, may be paying the cost for it. the harassment, exploitation, the pressure on subordinates, poor quality of life, long hours at short notice, harassment of women which is an international issue now, the Me Too campaign, the echoes and reverberations are still going on and they will continue. And there are some organizations which squeeze their suppliers so hard and their dealers. So the stakeholders, your career success is not only your success. Many people have a part, a contribution, a role to play in it. Then the success is also not worth it, not sustained, if one is ignoring the basic responsibilities to the immediate personal stakeholders in one's life. Spouse, at least for some time, the spouses are committed to each other. Children, till they grow up and they become independent and no longer need their parents. The elders often get neglected, and we are having this problem of huge accumulation. Again, the lifespan and so on. A new sector in the economy is flourishing now, old age homes with attached clinics and so on, and people hardly visiting. So I think the many old people now clearly say that old age is a curse. It ought to have been a golden period of life, a period of joy, reflection, remembering the next two generations, and sharing experience and wisdom with them. And finally, the career success may be at the cost of adharma to oneself. There is a dharma that we owe to this body. When I meet a number of young groups around the country and even mid-level executives, I ask them this question: to whom does your body belong? And we have some discussion. And my suggestion to them is that your body does not belong to you. It certainly does not belong to you exclusively. You are a trustee of your body. The body has been given to you as an instrument. Sharimadhyam kalu dharma sadhanam. As an instrument, and nimittam, to, first of all, your duty is to take care of this body for the sake of your parents, particularly the mother who bore you in a room for 9 months and gave birth. And those of us who have done the Pitrashardham in Gaya will remember the shlokas there. Then turn to your father. Then when children are born, your younger siblings, you have a duty to look after them. Then when you get married, your spouse. And then when they have children, the grandchildren. So, yes, you also have a reasonable right to enjoy many things in life, but you have to, your basic dharma is to keep this body in physical, mental, and spiritual health while pursuing your career and the benefits and both the financial as well as ego satisfaction that you get from the career. These are the errors we make. And as these errors erode our capability, we cut corners and take advantage of certain shortcuts. So where do these weaknesses come from? First is the strong pull of karma. We were discussing about, before the lecture started, about the role of dharma, why it is so important. And Rohit Vishwanath gave a beautiful picture of the Rama Rajya, the elements in it. And I have often mentioned in my articles in Tattvāloka repeatedly, and I think this one point is worth remembering, whichever scripture of our heritage you look at, any Purana, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, any Upanishad, Gita, any Veda, anywhere, any function that we perform, we don't have the confusion of Western psychology, of Western capitalist civilization, where young people are often unsure of what is life, what am I supposed to do, who am I, what should I do, where should I go, and that leads to depression, anxiety, obesity, drugs, and finally, in some extreme cases, suicide. In our case, there is a normative, established, proven model over thousands of years, over yugas, several yugas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There are 4 objectives and just 4. All of life is covered in these 4, And in these four, there is no place where Dharma is ever stated second or third. It is always the first. But although it is number one normatively, behaviorally in practice, we are not equipped to fully practice it because our own endless desires. Kama is often in the Western mind associated with Kama Sutra. It is not only that physical, carnal Kama, but Kama is very wide, all kinds of desire for money, things, possessions, various kinds of attachments. Endless. This is endless. Economic science recognizes this, that the definition of economics itself, that resources will always be limited in relation to wants, and it is a science of allocation of the resources to the different wants. The second reason why we make these mistakes is the predominance of rajas. Another weakness which is worse than rajas is a high level of tamas. Such people do not even aspire for career success. At least aspiring for career success is a good step forward. But we have to take care of the predominance of rajasic behavior, the aggressive pursuit of career, which may work for 5 years, 10 years, but which sets in motion. For example, managements become wiser and wiser. Dharma is made effective by two broad forces. One, by the maturity, awareness, responsibility of the individual himself or herself. That is the most reliable tool. So if everybody internalizes this Rama Rajya Dharma of prema, non-violence, compassion, those kinds of values. The second force that is required is that the organization should have a governance system, a leadership, a top management, which is watching behavior in the organization of dharma and adharma, and will encourage dharmic behavior and discourage. The current government, in some respects, is trying to bring in that kind of sanctions against adharma, and the Reserve Bank, finally more firmly and strongly dealing with the problem of debts in the banks, NPAs, the insolvency board law. I think for a long time in India we avoided this. 40 years ago, I remember many of us in the Institute of Cost Accountants management seminars talking about the need for something like Chapter 11 of the US in India, a way to force companies which are not competent, which cannot pay interest and repayment, to be dispossessed of the assets and somebody else take over. But we have always had this feeling of protecting every business rather than protecting the consumer. And now, similarly, within the organization, managements are becoming more aware of no longer performance at any cost. They don't accept shortcuts. They now have the concept of corporate values, company culture, brand value, customer satisfaction. So the organization should restrain excessively aggressive behavior, and the individual should have self-restraint.